I just want people to enjoy the game. And I encourage a lot of the beginners not to even keep score.
Welcome into another episode of the Fairways to Fortune podcast. I'm your host, Joe Canfield. We talk about how people use golf for success on this show. And I'm sitting down with Brian Jacobs today, who is the head golf instructor at Ballon Isles Country Club in Palm Springs, Florida. Brian, thanks for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Joe. This will be fun.
Brian, I got recommended to talk to you from Zach Williams, who was on the show a while back, and he had nothing but great things to say about you, and he connected us, and we chatted on the phone, and I'm glad you agreed to do this because I think your background in golf and the way you got into it is super interesting, and I'm excited to hear a little more about it and to share it with our listeners as well.
Thanks. Yeah, I like the name of the pod too, Fairways to Fortune. Still waiting for both.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. We were just chatting before we jumped on, and we're talking about Ballon Isles and where you're at, and it's a beautiful spot down there in Florida that you've landed at. 3 courses, unbelievable practice facility. Take me through your background a little bit and how you ended up there. I know you've been in the golf industry a long time, but you had a career before that, which I feel like is unique, but becoming more and more common, where people are saying, yeah, I want to get into golf, like myself anyway. So take me through it a little bit and how you ended up in Florida and kind of the journey on how you got there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I grew up in a all sports family. There was 5 of us. And so we were mainly football, baseball. We never considered golf. My mom actually worked at a private club as a waitress. And the head pro there was a pretty prominent player. His name's John Calabria. He recently passed away probably a couple of years ago. And John used to ask us all the time when we were, the Jacobs boys were going to play golf. And we were like, never. We're baseball, we're football. We're not going to play that. And then we didn't understand the impact of it. And my dad had clubs, and I can remember him maybe playing twice a year. It was just expensive, and we weren't wealthy. And, like I said, there was 5 of us, 7 total. And my parents were just grinders. They just ground it out. And so I went the route of baseball and football and wound up being recruited to play baseball and football and finally settled on football in college. So I never played golf. I never went to the range. I never did anything until I was in my late 20s. At the time, I was a school teacher in the inner city of Rochester, New York, upstate, kind of in between Syracuse and Buffalo. And I thought that was it for me. I thought I would be a lifetime coach, football coach, and just kind of, teach health education. And when I got asked to coach, I didn't know anything about the game. Got asked to coach a middle school golf team. And I said, well, I think like any good coach or maybe great coach, you learn as much as you can, about the sport. And so for me, I'll go backwards a little more. I was never diagnosed with a learning disability, but I had a learning disability. I couldn't crack the code, and I always thought differently. And teachers would think that I was trying to get out of work, and it wasn't that. I just never understood a connection between why I need to know all the state capitals when my dad hated traveling and we were never going to go there. And so I was very forward thinking. I'm a bit of a slow learner, but a deep learner.
Yeah.
And so I always felt like I was the board of education guy. I was the guy that got hit with the 2x4, and that's how I learned. And my brothers and my sister were geniuses, so I looked even worse, like when they would have the number 10, I would make a t-shirt and I would put 1/2 on mine, or 00, or, like they were the superstars. They were the thoroughbreds, and I was more of a mule, my dad called me. And so my destiny was basically to kind of work in industry, and I wasn't going to go to college or anything else. And I got in special talent and all these other wonderful things because of athletics. So I thought football was going to open doors for me. And then when I started to read more about golf and how it was just so addicting, to people, they were so passionate about it, the books that I read, and I started to read instructional books. And I read Ledbetter's Faults and Fixes. I read Hogan's book. I read McLean's. I read all about the Harmons who were in our area. And then I was coaching middle school golf, and I started to dabble a little bit in it and play. The coaches always played. They teed off first before the kids batted.
Nice.
So we could finish, and I was kind of like, this is weird. Like, nobody's coaching. You guys are all playing, and I got pretty good at it. I could make the ball curve, and I could make it do different things because I was a good hitter in baseball, and I figured, oh, this is super easy. I just got to keep it in the fairway, and then I don't care what I hit. So I never hit a driver. I always hit a 2-iron. And then as I got a little deeper into it, I got asked to run a caddy program at a local club, a club called Mid-Val Country Club, and this was in the late 90s, 97 or 96. It kind of shows how old I am. And so I learned how to caddy.
Yeah.
And which was great because I was learning the game along with learning how to caddy, but I was like 32, or 31. And then pretty much everything I do, I kind of like pour my full self into. And so I really fell in love with caddying. Not to be a professional caddy, I was still teaching school, but I took on taking our kids, from the inner city and trying to give them a skill. We were not doing well in the city. Our city is kind of like Chicago on a small scale. Like we have
Sure.
a lot of murders, a lot of poverty, just desolation, incarceration, disease. And so I said, well, what better way to help these kids is to get them out in the fresh air. And so I had a Tahoe at the time, and I used to pick kids up, 10 of them, to shove them in the Tahoe, and we'd go, and I'd get them bags. And then the membership didn't receive it as well as they thought. But
Sure.
Locust still called me where the ladies played. And I wound up switching over to there. And that's when I really got on fire with coaching and teaching. And so I ran this caddy program, and I worked as an assistant. And then I started to play competitively as an amateur. And then I said, well, what the heck? I'll do my player's ability test, and I'll prepare like I would for a football game or anything else, and not knowing the rules, or like we didn't have the internet then. So
Yeah, right.
I didn't know, I prepared like it was going to be like the US Open, and I get there and the tee boxes, as are, like white tee boxes and middle pins.
Mm-hmm.
And I shot 1 under and 5 under. And my goal was like just to go. And if I got through, I would go to the business schools. And if I didn't, then God had my plan to do something different.
Right.
I was going to be a teacher and a coach. And I can remember leaving. I was the only one out of 36 people to make it. And the president of the section at the time goes, "Who are you?" Like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm a school teacher," and golf's my thing now, kind of
right.
And I can remember I had an old set of Cleveland clubs, a VAS, and remember the old purple backs with the goofy face, but I could hit them.
Yeah.
And then it kind of took off from there. I just really fell in love and started to look at my pathway. And I can remember sitting down with an older gentleman in our area, and he told me, he goes, "You're a teacher." His name's Sam Rosetta. Sam was a legend in our area. Probably if you took the Harmons and Rosettas and put them together, you got Tiger, at that time period. And I mean, it just like kind of never really, it didn't, not that it didn't dawn on me, but it was, well, that's weird. Like everybody wants, that's all they talk about is being a head pro in the PGA and the business schools and everything else. And all I really wanted to do was teach.
Yeah.
And so he worked for Julius Burrows in the off season, and I got a chance to meet Julius Burrows, and we talked about golf. And I met quite a few older players. I actually met Lee Trevino. I've met Jack Nicklaus. I've met John January, Al Geiberger through Sam. And to a person, they said teach.
That's awesome.
And not because that's where the money is, because that's where you make the most difference.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I love about it. And when I started college, I was a secondary education major with an emphasis in coaching. And I transferred schools and went a different route into business school and things like that. But how much did the coaching football and that athletic side of things lend itself to learning how to teach golf? Because, I tell people all the time that teaching and playing are two very, very different skill sets, right? There's a lot of people that can play the game really, really well. All the PGA Tour guys, if they knew how to teach, they wouldn't have coaches themselves. But then I know a lot of people who are great instructors that can't hack it.
Right.
So how did that kind of work in your brain when you went on to the teaching side with, hey, I have this coaching background? How much of that helped you on the golf instruction side of things?
It's funny. It's like when you go to pick out a puppy and you see the dull eyes and the bright eyes, right? And the bright eyes ones are the smart ones, right? And they got it. They just have the gift. And so it can even equate it to poor teachers. They're good people, but they don't have the gift or and when you look at the top tier people that teach, they don't shove themselves like the square peg into the round hole kind of a thing. They're gifted, like they're uniquely gifted. They're purposeful. And it's just, I don't know, it was innate for me. I understood learning styles really, really well. And like even as a school teacher, I continued to teach 30 years while I was doing my business at the same time. And I never saw a problem transitioning because it's teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be amazed. Like I got involved with Hank Haney's Teach the Teacher and helping him certify his teachers, his instructors. And I felt the same way that he felt. I was seeing the same things that he was seeing, but I couldn't say like, hey, I saw that too, because he was teaching Tiger.
Right. Yeah.
And you never dared, like I had at least enough sense to not be like, hey, I saw that too, or yeah, that's what I was going to do.
Yeah. It's a little intimidating. Yeah.
Path. And I was very like-minded with him, and I would see other teachers and I would be like, it's a little more black and white to me. Like you either move it left or you move it right. That's how it works. And there's just variations of curve, right? You either hook it or slice it. I mean, that's kind of how I came out of it. My upbringing was very, black and white, and very, very much it's this or that.
Right.
And there wasn't any middle ground. And I found that to be very true when teaching, and coaching in golf. You either can do it or you can't.
Yeah.
And if you can't, let's learn how to do it. And then the other thing, when I coached football, we always won. We were winners because I was regimented in practice and I had high expectations of myself, my staff, the players. And it was culture building. Like even now as I direct instruction, I inherited a team of people. And so it's difficult because you're trying to build a culture with already established materials.
Yeah.
So if you had raw material, you could shape it and mold it if it was like Play-Doh, but it's not. They're people.
Right.
And so you have to earn their trust. You have to earn their loyalty. You have to earn their decisiveness. And so every day, as I'm teaching and working with students, that's what I have to earn every single day. And I don't lay down either. I go hard at it. I don't just walk in and say, oh, I got to teach this kid.
This guy again? Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like I did a presentation a number of years ago for a teaching group. And I thought, I listened to some of the people talking in their groups. And I said, this is interesting. I said, because I get up at 4:00 in the morning. I go to the gym at 4:30. I get to school by 6:30. I teach my full day. I run for the border at 2:01, to get to the range. And I fall in love again every day, teaching and coaching and just being around it. And it's what I'm made for. And you guys are complaining about doing a 6-hour shift in the shop, and I've already worked 16.
Yeah, right.
And I'll do it again tomorrow. And I got kids and a wife, and I'm, getting my PGA, and I'm coaching, and I'm, earning a master's degree. At one time I was in school getting my master's. I was working at a club. I was coaching college golf. I was coaching high school golf. And I was, all at the same time. Like I couldn't even remember how to tie my tie, for school. So I started wearing a polo.
There you go.
So
and then you didn't have to change when you went to the course.
Yeah, it's kind of evolved, and I don't know. I'm very blessed, very grateful, but I worked hard too.
Yeah. I think you and I are really similar in that. My wife and I were chatting with her parents the other day. They were over at our house and they said, "Hey, Jill told us that you're working 3 jobs." And my dad happened to be in the room as well. And he's like, "Sorry, that came from me." And I grew up, my dad, he taught me how to play golf. He had me out on the range, but he worked 3 jobs his whole life and he still does. He's, well into his 60s and
Right.
he has a dental practice. He does insurance claim reviews on the side, and then he's the director of dental for something else. And that's how I grew up. I love the hard work, and I tell the kids I work with all the time, you're not going to get any better unless you want to put time and effort and work into this.
Right.
And there's the
they
kids
don't
that
know
get
what
it.
work is though, because sometimes they don't see that model. You get a lot of entitlement, right? At these, there can be a lot of entitlement at a place like I'm at.
Yeah.
I found the people to be incredibly hard workers to acquire the wealth that they acquired.
Sure.
All of them to a person will say, I had some luck involved.
Yeah.
But every person I admire because they worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're taking up the game late in life. And that's right. They paid to play, and some people play and now they pay.
Now they're paying. Yeah, right. Brian, help me through kind of your mindset. You said you work with a lot of people who are picking it up later in life. How is it different going from maybe teaching a junior player to teaching somebody who is picking it up later, for you anyway?
I think the development part, the hardest part is a lot of these people never played sports. They had a car wash business, when they were 13, or a paper route, until they were 20, and then they sat in student government, and then they weren't athletes. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, that looks fun. I think I'll pick up golf, and you're like, oh, really? I said, okay, well, for each, habit that you want to become a behavior, a proper pattern, a proper motor pattern is 18 to 254 days. I said, and there's, 300 and something interactions in a golf swing, with the human body. So good luck if you can't move, right? So we look at movement patterns. I do first, and I say, if you can eat, put your socks on, at least you know how to use your hands. Can you look up and down? Yeah. Okay. You can use your eyes.
Yeah.
So we can get you in the right spine angle, but their pelvis is the big part because they sit a lot. And it's getting their feet and everything to move properly. And so it's super interesting to me is I just finished some certifications with Gray Institute, how we use the feet, the hands, and the eyes as drivers. And people can put their feet together and hit golf balls. But as soon as you put them apart, they become technical. And so what I've always contended my whole career was I'm just going to game with people. I can go as deep as they want to go. Like some people want to have these philosophical conversations about club position and everything else. Awesome. But when you're on the golf course, you're not going to have TrackMan behind you, and you're not going to have this lab, and you're not going to have this. And so how are we going to get that feeling, so that you can play?
Yeah.
Well, there's a really fine balance, and it's really easy to just stand in the teaching or the learning center and just bring them in one at a time,
Point at the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. And say, look, your path is X, Like I've had people say, if I could just change my path, I'd be amazing. I go, great. We'll change it in one swing. Just aim to the right if they slice it, right? And all of a sudden their path is positive. Okay, it's changed.
Yeah. Wow.
But you still can't get the face to square. How come?
Yeah. What's going on here? The path's the right way, but you're still leaving it wide open. Yeah, right.
And motor pattern, right? And then you start to talk to them about the human body, and you say, well, whenever your arms swing towards you, your left forearm or your lead forearm is going to reverse. That's why you do it. You're creating room, because you kill yourself if but if you swing away from you, your tendency will be to properly rotate your forearm,
Yeah.
But there's so many things going on. I just want people to enjoy the game. And I encourage a lot of the beginners not to even keep score. Like, look, go out and tee it up everywhere. hole looks too hard, skip it. Get 4 swear words a hole.
Yeah.
It's a bunker, throw it out. Kick the ball if you want. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Just go have fun. You're paying $1 billion to be here, and you're torturing yourself.
You're not going to enjoy it. There's a course up here. I won't use the name just to not make anybody upset, but it's a very, very challenging golf course. It's fun if you're a good player, and it's fun to play a couple times a year. But a friend of mine said, if I was a member there, I would be the best fly fisherman in all of Utah.
Right.
And this is a guy who plays 200 rounds of golf a year.
Right. Exactly. Right.
So
exactly. I've heard that from people too, or they'll be at multiple clubs. Like we have members that are at Ballin, they're at Winged Foot, they're at, all these different places, and they're terrible. I go, well, what do you do at Winged Foot? Well, I mostly eat dinner. They're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I go, the food must be amazing.
Yeah, right. The food's got to be really good if it's better than the golf there. Yeah.
Out of this world. And I'm like, amazing. You don't play. I take guests once in a while. So it's like for me, growing up the way I did, it's hard for me to process that wealth. Because for me, they were just people.
Yeah.
They come in and I ask them their story. How did you get into it? Give me your golf, the good, bad, and the ugly. And they'd say, it's all ugly. And I go, it's not true. It's not true.
Yeah. I love golf because, and I really got into it more and more as I got into a career in business because I would take people out to play. And I really believe that someone will show themselves who they actually are on a golf course more than they will anywhere else. And I'm sure you just said it, all these very, very wealthy, very successful individuals come in and they're just like the next person. And I'm curious on your insight on that and maybe some behaviors that you've seen in people that are kind of like, this isn't going to work out so well if we get into a teacher-coach relationship, or maybe you should work on a few things before you, and maybe not just your golf game, but you should work on these etiquette things before you take people out, right?
Yeah. I think when people are coming in, there's 2 different wheels spinning when it comes to coaching. There's money and then there's emotional currency. And so for me, I've always gone to the emotional side, the loyalty side, the trust side, the respect side, the honor side of the customer and me. It's how I built my business. So I was an independent for my whole career until now. This is the first time I've ever been an employee as a director of a corporation. I've always been an independent working at a club where I would pay rent. To be there. And I proved my worth by bringing members in and creating revenue streams and doing these different things. Whereas I'm running my own business inside of this business still, because the tools that you need to do that, to make the fortune, is to be caring and honest and loyal and trustworthy and respectful. And the people, truthfully, they don't really care that much about the game. They want the camaraderie, right? Yeah. They want the social part of the game. And so you have to be able to read the room. I've got hardcore students, and then I've got people that are social, but they're very similar in that they all want to have fun. They want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
They want to play their best, And so what is your best? Like a guy came in today, he lives in Ballin, but he commutes to DC. So he's Monday through Friday in DC. He's a lobbyist.
Okay.
It's tons of fun to talk to. Came in today. He goes, shot my best round ever. I go, -10. And he goes, no, like 81.
Yeah.
That's
awesome. Pumped about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So it's literally -10 because you're like a 22 handicap.
Yeah.
And he goes, He goes, I guess if you think about it that way. I go, I do. I go, your handicap's like money. I said, take your handicap number, right? If it's 22, put $22 in your pocket. And every time you make a double or a bogey or whatever, take the money out of your pocket and see if you can end a round with anything in your pocket. He goes, oh man, he goes, I'd be in debt. I go, so
when you go shoot 81, yeah.
Right. How do we keep the 22 in our pocket?
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of the deal. And there's this wave of, there's just so many things going on, but I go more for the emotional currency, understanding that if you connect and care, and do a great job and work hard and add experience, the money has always taken care of itself. I've never missed a meal, as a coach. Never.
That's awesome. I love that insight, because I honestly, I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if you can just be a nice person, you can take care of people. You're not there because they have something to give you, which I feel like, at a nice club like you're at, there's probably people that have joined because of the networking aspect of it, which is fine. Like, that's why these clubs exist. But if you went into the locker room and went and walked down and read every single name that was on there and then said, okay, I want my locker next to this guy, because I know that I can do business with them. Like, that's just not a great way to get it done, right?
Yeah. And your younger audience won't know who E.F. Hutton is, but it's like, like if there's the top broker at a club and you're a broker, and you look at all the names, that's not how it works there, because they're all the top people.
Yeah.
They don't even they have a locker room, but everybody has their own cart and they drive from their house.
Right.
So they don't have the social awkwardness of showering together, and they have a lounge though where they can play cards and everything else. I've never seen anybody in there, truthfully. Just to have lunch maybe once in a while, or use the restroom. But in general, people drive their carts in. They got their games, and it's a busy place. We do over 100,000 rounds of golf a year. And,
wow.
Yeah, 250 events that are sanctioned events that like have food and beverage and, scorecards and TVs and live scoring. And it's very active, and they love golf.
Yeah.
They love it, and that's how they are about their jobs, their families, their everything.
Awesome.
It's the most uniquely eccentric, but yet sincere and caring group of people that I've been around in a long, long time, and as far as a mass group of people. Yeah. My students were all that way.
Right.
To see 1,000 of them like that, or 1,100 of them, is amazing to me. They're all happy people in my experience. I deal with them in a lot different light than maybe the shop does, but
sure.
And it's great leadership there. Our director of golf is amazing. The GM, they're the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
So I feel very honored to even be chosen to be there. Like, I'm just kind of like, you pick me.
Sure. Me. Yeah.
Man, I got another one fooled. Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really cool. I think that in life, you become kind of the model of who's around you. And if you surround yourself with successful people, that success is going to find you. So I really appreciate that. Yeah.
And I'm trying to impart that on the younger people there, that you're entitled to nothing when you wake up in the morning. Your job is to work hard and just keep rolling. And I know you have ideas, and they're good ideas. You should have ideas.
Right.
Like tomorrow we have, I've been on property since March, and every month we do something called 71 University.
Okay.
And so it's about teaching, it's about sales, it's about coaching, it's about relationship building, it's about the technology we have. And then I always did this as a coach too. I would always sit down with the teams and have something called Good of the Order, which I learned from one of the best wrestling coaches that ever walked the planet in high school. And he would sit his wrestlers down and let them complain.
Yeah.
Say, what complaints do you have? Well, coach, I think the practices are too hard. What's your record? And then he'd say 26-0, and he'd say, do you think you'd be 26-0 and go to states if the practices weren't as hard? And they'd be like, well, no. Okay, well, that's a good answer, everybody, to that question. Good of the order. He'd go, got it, good. Just clap his hands, just like that.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from him. Even though wrestling wasn't my main sport, I used to try to get around great coaches, and I would watch his practices and how he timed them and how everything moved. And he was so efficient in a short amount of time. And I said, man, if I ever get a head football coach's job, that's how I'm doing it. 90-minute practice, in and out of here, and that's how I've always been with people. So 71 University is the young people present, so they've got to become an expert in something. So tomorrow, one of our PGA ITs, they're called, their PGAs in training, they're going to present on SAM, and it's going to bomb. Because it's hard to present in front of your colleagues.
Yeah, it is.
Because they're ready to rip you.
Right.
You know? And so he'll do a great job. He's very proficient in it. And then we critique for the good of the order, right? And then we say, okay, season's coming up. What do we got? What are our pinch points? And what's happening is the culture is, they're starting to open up more. They're starting to trust me more. And I'm fighting for them every day. Like, look, I want you to get national average as far as, your lesson income, but I also need you to serve at a higher level or you're going to be overpaid and we're not going to raise you.
Right.
And we need to follow through on this and keep the corners clean, keep the windows clean. And, this is better than our home.
Right.
Because when you talk to a young person about home, you and I had a different upbringing.
Right.
We cleaned.
Yeah.
We did dishes, we did laundry.
Yep.
These kids don't even make their bed.
Right.
They're like, why would I make it? I'm just going to mess it up again.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about golf, Brian, and it sounds like you do a great job of integrating this into your culture there, is the level of customer service that you get. Out here in Utah, I grew up playing public courses, and we have some really, really good public golf out here. My home course is Soldier Hollow. They've hosted the USGA Pub Links there. They get the state amateur there every other year. Wow. Tony Finau actually won the state am on that course. So, I mean, there's some really cool history, some really cool stuff there. And you used to walk into that pro shop, head pro knew you by name. Mm-hmm. Joe, it wasn't Mr. Cantle at that point. I'm like 13, 14 years old. So, hey, Joe, how are you? It's good to see you. So glad to have you here. And grab a cart, go have fun, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how the kids were treated. And if you, speaking of Tony Finau, you look at his story, it was the same thing. It was a public golf course, kind of inner city Salt Lake. Right. And the head pro there saw him out there on the putting green, chipping balls, and just kind of took him under his wing and said, hey, Tony, we're glad to have you here. And I feel like public golf has lost that a little bit, especially with the COVID boom, when all these courses are kind of going, we're so busy, we have so many people here that we don't necessarily need that anymore. Yeah. What's kind of your take on that a little bit?
No, they do need it. I call BS on them all the time for stuff like that. Oh, I'm so busy. Yeah, but are you productive? What are you doing to be productive is a better question to me. Like, you're so busy. Like, I don't know what you mean.
Your tee sheet's full. What else is going on?
Right. But how are you engaging? Like you said, how are you engaging that customer? And you need the right type of person to do that too. You have to have someone who cares.
Yeah.
Who really is a servant, has a servant's heart. And so when you're seeking teammates, you don't just hire to hire. Like, let's fill a spot. That's in general what I see, and I get it. Like, people have to make money. They have to get paid. I understand that. But you can be the triple threat. You can be nice. You can have a servant's heart. You can be decisive. You can be all these different things. But we have to vet better in the business, I think. It's just my own personal opinion. And then we also need to understand that you're making a huge difference in a young person's life when you're in a position that you're in, and you can walk down to them and say, hey, I care about you enough to say hello. And I will share. It's very sincere at Ballonels. And I think that's why I fit in.
Yeah.
Like, we had the drive, chip, and putt. And I had a dad come, to me, and he said, I read your resume, and I've seen you on Golf Channel. And I'm like, I know. I don't like to brag, too much. And he said, I would love to have my daughter work with you, but we just can't afford you. I said, I never said anything about money.
Right.
I never said one word about money. And I said, well, where do you live? And it's a single dad. The mom passed away about a year and a half ago. And there was a big disparity in the kids' ages. And I found all this out from the little girl.
Right.
From the daughter, and she's got a lisp and she's really cute and she smashes it.
Yeah.
And she can putt and she can chip. She won her division.
That's awesome.
And she's competing, and the dad's like, I don't know what to do. Everywhere I go, they want to leverage, this, it's like $10,000 or $5,000. And I said, again, I never said anything about money.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, I'll make a deal with you. Just bring her in and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I don't know what to do. And I said, I just told you what to do. Text me in the morning and we'll figure it out. And I know you want her to be regimented, but just remember she's 8.
Right.
So we put her in our PGA Junior League. She came last night, which is important, for her to have a social life.
Yeah.
And then I said to the dad, I go, why don't you bring her Thursday early, and I'll meet with her for an hour and a half. And then she can go to PGA Junior League. She'll have a match on Saturday. I said, Friday, why don't you bring her in and I'll play, with her a little bit. And I said, it's a slow time. And he says, well, what do I owe you? I go, you don't owe me anything.
Yeah.
I said, just pay it forward, when you get a chance to be nice to someone. Don't throw the finger at somebody when they cut you off, or, if you see a little old lady, and she can't, pick a can of food off the counter, off the shelf in her scooter, get it for her, like, just be observant. That's all I'm asking. He just started bawling, and I'm like, look, dude, I get it. It's hard. You're a single dad, and I don't get it because I'm not a single dad. But
sure. Right.
I said, we're not here to, even though we're gated, I'm not closing the gate on you, but you can't be here every day either, right? There's a balance.
Right. Yeah. You got to find the balance. Yeah.
People
Yeah.
pay a lot of money for this, but there isn't a single member that's there that I would know that would say like, oh, get that kid out of here. And,
yeah, it's a great culture to have. The University of Utah practices at the Salt Lake Country Club, which is kind of the big club here. It's, the initiation fees there alone are insane, and it's kind of the who's who of Utah. And there's a few members that said, we don't want these college kids out here on the range anymore. So they gave the school a big donation and said, okay, now you have a beautiful indoor practice facility. We'll have you out here in the summer. The winter, we don't want to see you.
That's how you solve it, right?
Yeah.
And there it's I don't know, the director of golf, they're just friendly, Like we have high school teams there. And like, if I was telling my daughter, she's the athletic communications director for Ohio State's women's team. And we have a number of members that went to Ohio State.
Yeah.
They can actually pay for a team to come there and use the facility for like a week, So I was telling my daughter, I go, why don't you get out of Ohio and, in February, come instead of, going to Orlando, come here and I'll try to find a sugar daddy for your team, to host you in. And the members are so proud. Like Liberty came there and, the member was like, this is my 5th year that I've done this. And I don't know what they pay, but it's probably, I don't even know. I can't even guess, but it's got to be $10,000 at least.
Sure. Yeah. To get the team out there and do that. And they're excited to show their club off, which I think is cool. Yeah. And that definitely plays into the culture of the club. Like you were saying, that everybody's very gracious, very happy to have people around. And I think that's such a stigma for nice clubs is that, they're all stuffy. No one wants you there. No one wants to talk to you. But I've been to plenty of nice clubs and I've never felt that way. One of my favorite clubs to play at is the Daniel Island Club up there in Charleston. And, I get an invite out there every once in a while from friends. And, the guy we know who's a member is super gracious. He has us over at his house. He books the cottage for us. He has us down in the man cave, as they call it, gives us the member treatment. Like we're supposed to be there.
Experience, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I grew up like my parents, they lived in Carolina Trace and my dad wouldn't join. And he said, I don't like country club people. And I never understood. And then I started, thinking like, well, maybe they didn't treat my mom well. So I asked my mom before she passed away a number of years before that. I said, Mom, did you ever get treated bad when you were like, Dad has this big bug up his rear about private club members? She's like, no, they treated us great. They used to send food home, to help help us out, and I mean, were we poor? Like, and she goes, well, we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. We were
Right.
just had enough. Right. And I can remember like my dad, like Saturday night was prime rib night, right? At this club. And man, if my mom brought home a doggy bag, that was a big deal. Like he got
Nice.
prime rib. We didn't get any, right? So I just couldn't make the connection. So I kind of, like my dad calls me an antagonist a little bit. He said, I don't know where someone where a slow learner got to be so smart. And I said, just keep remembering I'm slow, but I'm deep.
You know the right things to look at, right?
Yeah. And I said, Dad, I go, partially your existence of who you are today was provided by those wealthy people.
Yeah.
That they were charitable enough to take care of you. Like we didn't have a pool at our house, but we could swim at the club anytime.
Yeah.
Because they liked my mom. And they liked us because we were good dudes.
Yeah.
And so it's just very interesting. And I also used to say too, like I had interviewed for a position once, and I really was invested. I really wanted the job. It was near my parents. It was a prominent club. And a friend of mine that I went through PGA schools was the director of golf. And he called and said, man, it's between you and two other people. And I don't know, you just don't have enough private experience. I said, when do we do the interview with the board?
Right.
And we did a Zoom board meeting. And I kind of got a little snarky in it saying like, you're only private when you're behind those gates. You guys all live in society.
Right.
You buy groceries, you get sick, you take poops. Not having enough private experience is probably the lamest excuse I've ever heard for holding someone back. I said,
sure.
That has nothing to do with whether I can coach or teach.
Yeah, who you are as a person, right? And how you treat other people, right?
Yeah, and if you're looking for a yes man, I'm not your guy.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they want. They want the cloth that they are, and I'm not them. I go, if you're not doing things the right way, I'm going to challenge you.
Yeah.
Do things the right way, to be ethical about things.
Mm.
And so I built my business on that. My parents instilled that in us, all the kids. And so when you're looking at leveraging this and ethics and all these other things, it's hard to process sometimes what's going on. But this place is amazing.
Yeah.
It's just, it's incredible how ethical they are, really, and how they talk to people. And I'm not behind closed doors. I don't know all the information, but what I see this really cool infusion, and I'm kind of like an outside voice, and they're starting to trust me, and I can't wait, for
That's
the
awesome.
future. Unless they fire me tomorrow, then we're going to pull this off the air, right?
Yeah, right.
Brian,
I mean, I got good insight of who you were when I was talking with Zach, and he says, I sent out emails to all of the instructors in the, Rochester area, New York area, and Brian's the only guy that got back to me. And what does it really take to send an email back, right? I mean, that's not a huge deal, and but now it is. Like you look at it that perspective. For you and I, like we look at, okay, someone sent me an email, sure, I'll send them back.
Sure,
or
of course, hey, I'm not interested.
Want to take like 10 minutes to talk? Yeah.
I actually said something in our section meeting about that. Like here we are. All of us have been hurting at some point in our life, and we've been scratching and grinding to try to get somewhere. All we need is to get an opportunity, and you guys can't even send an email back to somebody.
And I've had that conversation. So Zach told me that, and then we had a gal, Tammy McQueen, was on our show out of Atlanta, and she was getting into the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing. She says, I did all my research. I reached out to all these pros in the area to get going. She was a collegiate tennis player, and so I sent them my background and said, I want to get into golf. And she said, no one got back to me. And I'm like, that is just the craziest thing in the world.
Busy.
Yeah.
I'm so busy that I can't, make a human connection with somebody.
Right.
That's why for me too, I do some virtual teaching, but only after I meet the person in person.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I've had people call and say, well, I just need a virtual lesson. How do you know what you need? If you
Yeah,
knew
right.
what you needed, you'd be fixed, right? You're already doing virtual lessons. You're on the internet every single minute of every day. My wife's boss actually texted or emailed me last night. Her son wants to get in the game. And she said, I know nothing about it, nothing. But he wants to, because his buddies play. And they live near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And she said, we will come to New York to meet with you. And I said, you're only an hour away from the guy that I love the most.
Right. Yeah.
His name's Lou Guzzi. He said he's been PGA National Teacher of the Year. And I said, he's like me, only he's more awesome because he's older, you know. And I said, he's been a PGA National Teacher of the Year too. And so she says, no, he went on your YouTube channel and he wants to take lessons with you. And she said, can I put him on a plane and send him, to Florida? And I said, well, that's great, but where's he staying?
Yeah.
I don't know him. I don't know her either. My wife knows him.
Sure.
Great kid, everything else, which is great. And I said, yeah, that's fine. But why don't you come too? And, bring the family and get a hotel. And I said, or just drive an hour.
Yeah. I'll see him.
If he's in a hurry, or if you want me to, I'll keep researching in Lancaster. I don't know anybody there, but I'll find somebody for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I said, here's the questions that you should ask a coach. You have to interview them. Don't just pick anybody, interview them. It's important, because if your son doesn't get started off the right way, it's like you're going to set your business brand back 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 It's hard to fix habits that are formed. Starting from scratch is a whole lot easier than trying to pick up somebody that's been screwed up already.
Well, like you're asking a question, like how long have you played bad golf, in your mind? 10 years. 10 years? I wouldn't play golf for 10 minutes bad. I go, why aren't you getting help?
Yeah.
Well, I thought I could figure it out on my own. And it just spilled on for 10 years. You thought that? I go, oh my gosh. I go that. Like I'll actually sit down sometimes and I'll get a towel and like wipe my head, and they're like, you all right? No, I'm going to pass out. Like I'm so glad you're here, but why? Like, why would you wait that long?
Do you know how many balls you have to hit to correct a bad habit? And not just hit, but hit the right way?
Yeah, practice properly. And then you do start to impose a little practice on them, and, and they're like, well, how, what's this going to take? I don't know. Human performance is so variable.
Right.
Now, by the way, you're not an elite athlete, so you won't pick it up that quick.
Yep.
So you're an elite thinker, though. You think you're an elite athlete, but let's be real, right?
Yeah.
We just got this great guy on property. He's our new racket director, or new racket head pro. Amazing athlete, elite.
Yeah.
And he said, I really struggle with golf. And I said, well, you've never played golf. Yeah. He goes, I go out and play with my friends. I go, that's not golf.
It's not golf.
What you're playing is tennis with a golf
ball's just on the ground. Yeah.
You're not playing golf. Like, he doesn't understand, like he thinks I'm elite, and he is. He's incredible. Like, he can curve it any way you want him to curve it, but then when you get on uneven lives, I said, in the lab, you're a superstar, but this isn't real. This is fake. You
need to go out and experience the variation that you get. Yeah. And that makes golf unlike any other sport, where you do have all those variables, and,
Well, you and I are in golf is very unique in that, the practice field is adjacent to the playing field. And so, we get that you can't bridge it, right? They can't bridge it. And you're like, because you don't play. Well, I do play. You don't play.
You don't play.
You don't practice and play. You score 5 times a week, right? I tell people to score once.
Yep.
Well, I can't do that. Sure you can. You're at a club. You can do anything you want.
You can do whatever you want. I have a colleague that I play with quite a bit, and he always gives me a hard time when I throw another ball down to hit a second shot. I go, we're not playing for money today, are we?
No, exactly. I'm here to learn, right? Maybe I could do different, Or you put the ball in spots that maybe you'll get sometime, or you haven't
throw it up against the lip of a bunker. Yeah.
Like,
when I was practicing for my PAT, I don't play a ton of like scoring golf, like you just said. Like when I'm taking clients out, like I'm out there hitting the ball, but that's not my primary focus. I'm there having a conversation. I'm trying to know who they are as a person. But when I was practicing for the PAT, I played a lot more golf where I actually tried to score.
Yeah.
And that was such a different experience because I was playing, I hit a bad tee shot. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go play from that spot instead of what I would normally do where I'd say, okay, I'm going to hit another one in the middle, or
I would have had a birdie.
Yeah, I'm going to foot wedge this one out of the way. And it's such a different way to go. And when I played my PAT, by the way, I shot the best round I think the best score I've ever shot in my life.
Isn't that crazy?
Which was crazy. And I think it was because of that preparation and being comfortable in different situations, right? Yeah. But it is so different that way to think through scoring golf and playing golf, very, very different things.
Yeah. Yeah, people will ask me, well, aren't you nervous when you play? I go, no. They're like, why? Because I don't care.
Yeah, I don't need to be. What happens if I go shoot 90?
Yeah, what do you be nervous about? I go, dude, this is fun time for me. Curve it around. I talk a lot. Obviously, I talk a lot. I'm chirpy with people, telling jokes, making them. I'm like the joker in the group. I just try to have fun. I rake everybody's bunker, and they're like, you don't have to do that. I go, no, it's just a habit, right? When I take a student out, I rake it. So even if I'm in a group, I go, I got it. I'll go over. I might be on the putting green. Yeah. And they're like, what are you doing over here? I go, I'm going to rake your bunker. And they're like, well, why? I go, I don't know. It's just what I do. Don't worry about it.
I'm happy to do it. That's the caddy background in you. You go and rake after him. Yeah.
I just would never, I wouldn't change my journey though.
Yeah.
It happened exactly how it was supposed to happen. And when I even go out and speak to companies, and I said, and when I met with my interview for this, I told them I'm uniquely qualified for the position. What clubs generally do is they hire the same person over and over and over, and it fails.
Yeah.
And I said, out of all the 6 candidates that you have, I'm the only one that own my own business. You have 5 people that are exactly the same. They're going to come in here, they're going to make a lot of money, and they're going to leave in 2 to 3 years because it's tapped.
Yep.
I'm going to keep building. I'm going to make relationships like I have with the sports complex, with maintenance, with food and beverage, with, outside services, with the pro shop. I love people. I want to know everybody, what they do, how I can help them. And in return, they will help me.
Yeah.
Refer, right? I mean, I helped on-course professional the other day. He said he noticed that I had a couple of scratches in my truck. And he goes, did you know I'm a car guy? I go, I did know you're a car guy.
Yeah.
And he goes, how about I rub those scratches out for you? And I go,
sure.
You don't have to do that. He goes, you gave me a golf lesson for free. And I'm like, yeah, but it's just what I do, right?
Right.
And he took my truck and he rubbed them out, and and
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, well, we got to play golf. And he goes, you would play golf with me? I go, sure.
Yeah, why not? I'll play golf with anybody.
Yeah. He's from Pennsylvania. He's a cool guy. He used to work for American Airlines. He was a baggage inspector.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was his main job. And now he's a starter.
Nice.
And so he's got a million stories. I can't wait to play.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That's so cool.
And I do feel like I've gained, I said earlier, I haven't gained the fortune, but I have.
Yeah.
I'm a billionaire when it comes to people.
It comes in different forms, and it's not always monetary. And I truly believe that you can be a fortunate person and not have the mansion and the memberships everywhere you want them. And you can be living a good life and be a great person. But Brian,
what's the golden parachute for any professional? Do you know what it is?
I don't.
They give you a lifetime membership.
There you go.
Right? I got 2 already at 2 different places in New York, right?
Yeah.
So I must have lived 2 lifetimes.
There you go. You've lived 2 lifetimes. You can go. Yeah.
Pretty
That's
cool.
Awesome. That's what I tell people. I go, I need enough money to feed my family and to play some golf. That's what I need in my life, and to meet cool people. And Brian, I've really, this conversation's been fantastic, and I love the way you think. I want to wrap up here just before we hit an hour, but the thing that I like to end with, and especially you being a golf professional, is a couple quick etiquette questions on the that are kind of borderline things. So give me real quick, just super quick, yes or no, music on the course.
Yes.
Okay. And then, sorry, what's that?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. It depends on how loud, right? Okay. All right. That's always the one that I get asked, is music on the course. And then the other one that I get asked is tee box honors.
No.
Okay. I tell people no too. I go, just go out and have fun. And I love that way of thinking about the game. And you play better golf when you're having fun. So
I always tell people they're the guest. Go ahead, you're the
yeah,
guest.
go ahead. You're the guest. Have
Even
a
though
good
they're the
time.
member, I tell them, you're the guest. They go, wait, I'm the member. Well, not
That's
today.
awesome.
I'm the member today.
Cool. Well, Brian, thank you so much. I think this has been super insightful, and I appreciate the insight that you've given to people who are just beginning in the game, where they can get started.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys at Ballot Isles, and how can people maybe learn a little bit more about what you're trying to do, or learn a little bit more about your journey?
Sure. They can look at balloniles.org. And I'm on Instagram at Brian Jacobs Golf. I haven't posted. I don't post a whole lot because Troon does a lot, and then our marketing department does a lot. But I pop in there every once in a while. It used to be an everyday thing for me, and it's been really a blessing, honestly, to not have to grind so hard on social media. It's like I'll look on it every once in a while. But yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff going on. We're Lita Lindley, she just won the U.S. Senior Open. She is a teacher at Old Marsh, but she practices and plays at our place. So she just brought by the trophy the other day and thanked everybody, and just wonderful to see people successful. And then we're mentoring and really working on our young people, and we're going to have a culture, and hopefully someday we'll have another 4 to 8 bays on our
That's awesome.
4-bay facility, to have more teachers and a real vibrant culture there.
Very cool. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Check out balloniles.org and Brian on Instagram. Thanks so much, Brian, and we'll be in touch. I hope to get to Florida soon.
Yeah, come on down. You have an open invite, Joe. And a place to stay.
All right. Thanks.